Let's work on our creative art spread for July. It's all about not leaving a page blank in our journal. We are using different, easy, creative ideas each month to make our journals and planners one of a kind. Something you want to go back and look at and see year after year. It's going to be a bright and colorful month, so get your supplies and let's get started. Hi everyone, Patty here. I'm using Tim Holtz Distress Oxide sprays in peeled paint, twisted citron, mermaid lagoon, and salty ocean. Plus, I will be adding some of my homemade inks from plants from my garden. I will list in the description a couple of videos I've made on how to make a couple of the different varieties of homemade ink. I also pulled out my pre-stamped watercolor sheets that we made back in January. Can you believe we are halfway through the year already? Where does time go? Yes, I've been busy and life is crazy, but we are keeping busy and having fun documenting what all has been going on. Find something you can spray the paints directly onto, and then you can dip your pages right into the wet paint or ink. I'm using a plastic mat. I added a little spray of water to the ink to move it around and have a couple puddles so the color will be more saturated in those places, making the color darker in those areas. Plus, this spray was an oxide, so we'll get a little more color variation with the addition of water. Take your cover page that doesn't have a stamp on it and dip it into the ink. I flip it over and add more of this color to the other side of the page. Soak up as much of the paint as you can on both sides of the page. Some areas will have more, which is great, while others just a few drops of this color. We will be layering another color onto the page once this dries. We want the color to dry before we add the next color. Get every bit of color, even use a spray of water to get the color off my plastic mat, so I don't waste some of this gorgeous blue color. Put the page on a surface to dry. I have a piece of freezer paper on the floor that I'm setting my pages onto to dry. Grab your next page and try to get more of this color onto the page, avoiding the stamped area. I do get some of the paint onto the stamped area, but I will be able to see through the paint and still be able to write in the blanks. You can wipe off any excess from the stamped area as if it gets to be too much. Making a mask that would fit over the stamped area would keep the page from getting too much color in the area you don't want. Keep adding the color to all three pages, both front and back of the paper. The page that has the double weekly on both sides of the planner is a little harder to dip into our color. So I sprayed the ink directly to the page and then added a spritz of water from the spray bottle. Used my finger tool to move the color down the middle of the page. Let these pages dry before going to your next color, so you don't get a muddled color or mix of colors. I want to see each color onto the page. My peeled paint spray won't spray anymore, so I just added the color from the spray nozzle to the plastic mat. Let the spray run and move on the page. Run the edge of the page through the sprays to get a darker color onto the corners and edge of the paper. For the double weekly page, dip the spray bottle right onto the paper and hit with your spray bottle of water to let it drip down the side of the paper. As much color as you want to get the desired color onto your paper. Turn the paper and add more color onto the edge and let it drip down the side. A little more spray onto the plastic mat and a little more of the water from the spray bottle. Dip another page onto the plastic mat. Wipe off any excess spray from the stamped area and let the pages dry. Keep doing this with your colors till you get the color across the page the way you like. Leave some white space from the watercolor paper to show through. I like how that looks in the end. In other words, don't put the spray all over the page. Leave some white. I have my handmade inks that I will be using the droppers to add free-form flowers onto the page. You could use acrylic inks if you don't have your handmade inks made yet. Making the inks is a fun project, and once you get started, you can't help but try out new plants to see what color you will come up with. My favorites are copper with white vinegar and apple cider vinegar. You get two different colors, one a green and one a blue, from copper. Plus marigold or dandelion are another favorite. Walnut is a beautiful dark brown, almost black color. I just draw a free-form flower with 4 or 5 petals right over the sprays we have used on our pages. Draw a flower. I go sort of fast and don't really worry about if it looks okay or funky. Add some in one color and a few in another color. My inks don't stand out as bright as if you are using acrylic inks, but I like the subtle look these free-form flowers have on my page. These will need to dry. Be careful while you move the page over to the drying area, which mine is on the floor with the freezer paper. The page with the double weeklies had a blob of spray down the center that I dabbed off some of the color, which leaves an outline of the color, which is a nice addition to our design. This side, I just add dots of color onto the page. After it dries, I will make some of them into flowers, but for now, make some dots all over, and set this aside to dry. On this page, I draw my go-to leaf branch. It will be in several of the months and will end up being a repetitive feature throughout the year. It's easy to draw and looks good each time. A line for the stem and a couple leaves. I filled the leaves in with the handmade inks. It was puddling in several areas, so I pulled out a paintbrush and added the color all over the leaf. Set it aside to dry. On this page, use your fine line bottle with watered down gold paint and add swirls all over the page. Some big, some small, some going one way and others going the opposite direction. No pattern, just free form swirls. My gold fine line bottle is almost empty and I'm going to have to make some more. For my leaf branch, I want to add some Derwent Inktense pen in black to the branch so it has more definition. If you need to sharpen these soft pencils, use a sharpener like a Primzacolor sharpener. It works great on soft leads. Outline the branch and the leaves. Use a watercolor paint pen or dip your paintbrush in water and go around the outlined branch. This will make the Inktense pen blend onto the page. It adds a shadow to the branch and makes it stand out on the page. We're ready to add the month and the weekly nomenclature to the top of the monthly page. I always try to ink those edges before I glue them onto the page up in the upper right corner of the monthly page. Add the dates to the monthly starting with Wednesday, being day 1 for July. These pages have no dates, so you can make them any way for each month of the year. The page I added dots to might need a few flowers added to the page. I just used my gel pen to draw flowers, using the dots to be the center of my flowers and adding petals around the dot. Again, here we are randomly adding petals to dots and making flowers out of every other dot, or skip a few dots and add another flower. Add as many flowers as you like all over the page. Have fun and add petals to the dots, making 5 petals to each flower. Some are off the page on the top, so I only add 3 petals. This page we're going to use our watercolor pens and add 5 dots of watercolor to the page in a circle. I've added watercolor directly to my watercolor pens. I have one in purple and one in a pink. The pink flowers don't show up as much, and I added a squeeze of the watercolor pen of purple to the centers of the pink flowers to give the center of the flowers a little more color. This method of drawing flowers is really simple, and you draw your petal from the center of the dots to form the petals. I made some oval-shaped petals, and some flowers have a triangle-shaped petal. Move your page around so you can get a good angle of the pulling of the paint from the center to the outside to form a petal at each of the 5 dots you created in a circle. Keep adding flowers and add as many as you want to the page. I paint some in the purple and some in the pink, adding a spot of color to the center of each flower. A couple of the triangle-shaped petals, I added a feathery end to them, pulling some paint out of the edge of the petal. Just made them a little different and fun addition to the flower. The 5 dots of color you add to your page needs to be in a 1/2-inch circle pattern. The larger the dot pattern, the larger your flower will be. Keep them in a small pattern for this size of page. All the pages have color with flowers or swirls. They are dry and ready to assemble. I fold the pages and score each page to make the journal pages. I also take the center pages for the habit tracker, step counter, and monthly planner and put them together with right sides out and sew across the top of the page and bottom to bind the pages together and form a pocket that opens from the side. The back page I fold over part of the page to form a pocket to hold some tags or notes for the month. Glue the ends down and clamp as the watercolor paper is stiff and it needs time for the glue to dry. We're ready to add the nomenclature to the front page of Virtual Live Planner. By using the fine line bottle filled with gold ink, I tested on a piece of scrap paper towel to make sure it's flowing and not clumping. And just go for it. Draw the word July with big fluffy letters. The Y, I added a long tail to it and brought it up the side and added dots to the top to make another type of flower with the fine line bottle of gold ink. I still have a little ink left in the bottle, so I added dots to the center of the flowers on the front page. Make sure this dries before you go flipping pages. The gold ink takes a while to dry and we don't want to smear it. We're ready to put June into our overall planner. We are putting pages into a quick flip through of the months we have added to our planner and add June to the elastic bands we are using for our spine for this year's planner. A flip through of June with one of the pockets has a wristband from being at the hospital as my husband spent time last month and finding out he has congestive heart failure, and we're in the process of lots of testing. Last month was tough, but we'll be working on getting his health under control. This will be a little reminder when I go back and look at this month and years to come. I didn't keep up with my habit tracker, as there were no habits to keep track of. Each day was something new and different. So again, I drew my favorite go-to leaf branch and used my watercolor pens to fill in with color around the outside of the branch instead of the leaf itself. Added black lines in the leaves to make the leaves stand out even more. The planner is filling up, and each month we have created something different and fun to add our pages. Have a great month. See you later. Bye now.